You can do everything right diet-wise, but if you haven't got a good sleep routine, you're probably still going to be suffering. My name's Seb, I'm a qualified PT and nutrition coach, and I help people with IBD find a place of freedom with food. Now, in this video, I want to talk to you about sleep and the importance of it, because particularly for anyone suffering with any kind of ailment, sleep is going to be really important in helping your body to essentially recover as well as it can do. Now, we know that obviously the purpose of sleep is to help the body repair. So when we sleep, we enter rest and digest. Blood is prioritized for the organs rather than the extremities. And essentially what that means is our body starts repairing itself. So the gut lining begins to heal, cells are cleansed and cleared out, and the immune system itself becomes more regulated by good sleep. So sleep is really important. Now, when we're not getting enough sleep, there's a whole host of things that start to go wrong. So you start to have elevated cortisol levels. Cortisol is a stress hormone. It's released when you are in fight or flight. And in a similar way to inflammation, it's something that we obviously want in the moment, but we don't want to have it activated all the time. And when it starts to be activated long term, it starts to cause us problems because our body's essentially in a stressful state. So that's the first thing, is you have elevated cortisol. Now, that elevated cortisol can actually lead to more of an immune activation, if you like. So the immune system becomes more activated, more sensitive, and more heightened. And that actually leads to a higher risk of flares and stuff like that. Now, alongside this, the gut barrier lining is actually weakened when we're not sleeping. And again, because of this ability to heal and regenerate when we are sleeping, when we're not, this whole process gets disrupted, and the ability for that gut lining to heal itself and regenerate is stopped. Once that's gone, obviously the permeability increases, and this is when you start to see more symptoms. This is when you start to have more issues. And it really does come down to the fact that sleep is that important. And alongside this, our hunger hormones are also regulated by sleep. So the two hormones, ghrelin and leptin, are both influenced massively by sleep. And when we don't sleep, those hormones become dysregulated, which is why if ever you've gone through a period of insomnia or just not sleeping well, you'll find that you'll get up in the morning and the thing that you're craving is high fat, high sugar, high salt foods. And this is because your cravings are enhanced when this hormone disruption takes place as a result of a lack of sleep. So again, sleeping in the context of appetite and stuff like that is really important. And lastly, there are also negative shifts in the microbiome as well. So in a similar way to how we work on our circadian rhythm, the microbiome is exactly the same. It has its own kind of rhythm that it likes to stick to. And when we don't get enough sleep, that rhythm is disrupted, and essentially it shifts into more of an inflammatory environment within the microbiome. So again, even for the microbiome, our sleep is so important for keeping inflammation down and keeping us in a healthy state. Now, there's quite a few reasons why most of us in the modern era aren't getting enough sleep. Some of it's to do with stress and work and just the general pace of life. A lot of people are sort of switched on 24/7. They're waking up, the first thing they'll do is check their phone within a minute of waking up, and then you've got notifications popping through. You're answering stuff, you go to work, you come home, and then essentially your body is activated all day. And it's no wonder that when you try and get to sleep at night, that process doesn't really have enough time to stop. So you'll find yourself maybe getting a few hours kip, and then that buzzing kind of alertness creeps in, and that's it. You're not really sleeping that well. So that's the first thing. The other thing is sleep is quite underappreciated in the modern age. And this ties into that previous point about being productive, is that we're often so preoccupied with out-competing each other, outworking each other, that we forget that sleep is actually going to keep us going long term. It improves our performance at work, it improves our concentration. But I think for a lot of people, it's seen as an afterthought. It's seen as something that I'll catch up on it later, or similarly to the phrase, sleep when you're dead. It's that kind of ethos of sleep is an afterthought, I'll get on with what I need to do now. And then lastly, in the context of people dealing with IBD, again, sleep isn't necessarily always seen as the most important thing, or even considered as one of the primary factors for getting better. There's obviously a big emphasis on diet, on processed foods, on avoiding alcohol, on everything that I talk about on this page, but sleep is also a big part of that journey. So if you're only focusing on diet, you're only focusing on really 60 or 70% of what you need to be, because sleep is a huge part of that. So alongside diet and lifestyle, we really need to think about the fact that sleep is a massive part of healing any condition. So what can you do about it? Well, I'm going to touch on this in another video in a lot more detail, as I've got quite a lot of experience with sleep issues and I've worked with some of the best experts in the UK, possibly even the world, on sleep. But here's some solid stuff that you can take with you. So the first one is to keep a sleep routine. Try and go to bed at the same time every night and try and wake up at the same time every morning. What a lot of people fall into is the weekend trap, where they'll go to bed at a certain time, wake up at a certain time throughout the week, and then on the weekend they'll stay up late, wake up later, and by the time they get to Monday, that sleep pattern's disrupted and it takes them maybe 2 or 3 days to get back to it. So that's the first thing, is to keep a regular sleep pattern. The second thing is to avoid caffeine near to bed. Now, if you're someone like me who is ultra sensitive to caffeine, I personally avoid it for this reason. Caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours. So this means if you had a cup of coffee at 12 o'clock midday, half of that coffee is still going to be circulating around your system at dinner. So coffee and caffeine in general has a really long half-life. So avoiding caffeine anywhere near bed is quite important. And if you're sensitive, it might even be worth avoiding it altogether. Another thing that you can try is not exercising too near to your bedtime. Now, I've been in the position before where if I haven't been sleeping, I've tried to tire myself out before bed. And obviously you'd think that that would work, but sometimes it has the opposite effect, where actually the exercise is quite stimulating and it can take you a while to calm down after doing that exercise. So get any rigorous exercise done in the morning, and then in the evening, if you still want to do movement, focus on gentle, low stimulating movement. So things like yoga, stretching and stuff like that, even meditation, would be far better for getting your body and mind ready for sleep than an intense run or an intense weight session. And the last thing is just to keep the room temperature cool. Our bodies actually need to drop their temperatures in order to go into sleep. So if you're sleeping in a really hot room, that can actually prevent you getting into a really good sleep. So keeping a cool temperature in your room is a great thing to do. So I hope this helps. If you are stuck with diet and you're trying to manage it alongside your condition, feel free to reach out. I offer a free consultation on my website and I'd love to help you out. On the next video, I'm going to touch on sleep and my own personal journey, and I'll go into it in a lot more depth and try and give you some really useful tips alongside what I've already given today about how you can improve your sleep and essentially start to improve your health. See you on the next one.